Top stories from Addis News Hour. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says Ethiopia has no intention to harm Egypt or Sudan in the effort to light up Ethiopia. And the African Union hails Congolese presidential election. Hello and welcome to Addis News Hour. I'm Daniel Kasahun with the news. The upcoming election is momentous yet challenging as it will take place in the midst of many changes, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has said. In a wide-ranging speech to the parliament today, the Premier said that the success of the election will be measured against free, fair and credible criteria accompanied by peaceful power transition. Prime Minister Abiy also took the occasion to highlight that TPLF cliques have been orchestrating various social chaos, providing misleading information to international institutions. Haptam Ashagre has the following compilation.
The House of People's Representatives held its regular session Tuesday, where parliamentarians raised a number of questions to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who addresses them in detail. Regarding the erroneous narrative circulating about Ethiopia, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said the TPLF cultists have been tirelessly working and injecting their own cadres at international institutions to create misleading information. The Premier also says the tyrant TPLF officials have appointed their own agents so as to provide fabricated information to the US government over the past many years.
TPLF army, they are working to destroy, to dismantle the country. We have destroyed that, and those that want Ethiopia to dismantle, I do not have any fear that Ethiopia will be dismantled. All threats have been demolished, even under great pressures.
Regarding the upcoming general election, Prime Minister Abiy said his administration has gone beyond its mandate, providing assistance to opposition political parties to take part in the election.
The coming election will be critical, but at the same time challenging. Political parties that has preparation to participate on this election. The government has discussed and talked and supported them more than halfway. I have also personally talked to the political parties that said we will not participate. We said, let's support you. Please involve in the election. We haven't sent elders, negotiators, mediators.
The Premier added some contesting political parties requested the National Election Board of Ethiopia to participate in the upcoming general election. His administration is hopeful the board will take appropriate measures in this regard.
Recently, political parties that wished to participate in the election asked the election board. I believe the election board will accommodate them, and I believe that should be the case. No political party who wish to participate in the election should be supported so they can participate in the election. Instead of pushing them away with the provisions in the law, we'd rather include it in the law and make them participate, and I believe the election board will also do that.
The objective of the upcoming general election is being free, fair and credible, as well as to realize the most peaceful power transition in Ethiopia's history, the Premier stressed.
In another development, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has reiterated that Ethiopia has absolutely no intention to cause any harm either Egypt to the Sudan. Ethiopia will finalize the construction of the GERD as planned despite challenges, he added. Allah Takramariam takes it from here.
In his address to the Parliament Tuesday, the Prime Minister has responded to queries posed by the parliamentarians regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Responding, Premier Abiy reiterated Ethiopia's firm stance that the country has absolutely no desire whatsoever to cause harm to either Sudan or Egypt. But he said Ethiopia doesn't want to live in darkness, and Ethiopia's line will only support them, not harm them, he underscored.
We will hold water. If there are any negotiations to be done before that, we'll do that. When we hold water, we'll make sure that it does not affect them, because we don't want our brothers to be affected. We'll have 6 million trees planted. That will bring about more rain.
According to the Premier, Ethiopia's interest is to benefit from the dam and grow together with both Sudan and Egypt.
To make the stance of Ethiopia clear, Ethiopia does not have intentions to affect Egypt. Ethiopia does not have intentions to affect Sudan. Ethiopia wants to benefit without a detriment to the other countries. Our brothers on the other side should understand that we don't want to live in the dark. We want electricity.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed also said the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has been facing many challenges technically and financially. However, Ethiopia will live up to the promise it made to its people by finalizing the colossal dam, he underscored.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has also said his government is desirous to solve the boundary dispute with Sudan in an amicable manner, as both countries are inseparable. Addressing MPs today, the Premier said Ethiopia recognizes the sovereignty of all its neighboring countries and bilateral ties with other nations. Habtam Ashagri has more.
One of the various questions MEPs posed to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was the border issues between Ethiopia and Sudan. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said Ethiopia is desirous to solve any boundary dispute with Sudan in a peaceful manner, as conflicts do not benefit either country. The Premier said his administration is committed to solidifying its ties with other countries by understanding the collateral damage of the previous conflicts within neighboring countries. Both Ethiopia and Sudan need therefore to have better solution rather than undertaking conflict as part of solving their border dispute, he added.
Concerning Sudan, it's a brotherly country. It stood with us in our problems, in our history. The people still love Ethiopia. We do not want to fight with Sudan because we've learned that through our battle against Eritrea, because if we start fighting, sometime it would stop, but many people would die. Sudan is not in a position to fight against any foreign neighbor. Ethiopia also has many problems and we're not ready to go to battle, so we don't need war. It's better to settle it in a peaceful manner.
The border dialogue of the two countries has long history and goes back to Emperor Menelik and Haile Selassie when Sudan was under colonial rule. The two nations discussed and agreed to solve and demark the border dispute during Emperor Haile Selassie in a peaceful manner. Recently, the two countries also started to resolve the issue by organizing ministerial meeting led by Deputy Prime Ministers, the Premier recalled.
The issue is quite old. In 1902, there was a negotiation with Atsai Menelik and Sudanese officials, British officials, before Sudan was liberated, and in the Haile Selassie area in the 50s at the end of it, there were some negotiations and were some principles were laid down. So from that time onwards, it's being under negotiation. On our part, there's a committee on both sides, and we have started working. It's when this started that they went into doing undue measures. We insist that we don't need war between the two of us. Our farmers are dislocated. but we do not want war.
Prime Minister Abiy also said the people of Sudan are a long-time friend of Ethiopia. In fact, Ethiopia and Sudan are inseparable, he added.
ሱዳን ከሌሎቹ ጋር ወዳጅነት
Sudan, they say, have created friendship with other countries. Ethiopia, Sudan can create a relationship with any country it wants to, but it cannot be an enemy to Ethiopia. Even the word Sudan in Arabic means, and in Greek, Ethiopia, they have the same meaning. It's one people. You can go anywhere and you see a Sudanese, you can talk to him in Amharic thinking that he's an Ethiopian. You cannot separate Ethiopia from Sudan. We can be friends with other countries, but we cannot be enemies with Sudan because we are one people who lived together for centuries. So we have no problem if they start friendship with any country, but if they want to make enemies of us, it will not be of any benefit because it's one country.
Still from the news from the parliament of today's session, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says Ethiopia has reiterated 6.1% economic growth during 2019-20 budget year. He further noted that the per capita income has reached $1,000 for the first time. While addressing questions on issues of inflation and other related economic matters, the Premier said the homegrown economic reform is part of the move to address the challenge. Allah Tekramariam presents the story as follows.
In responding to queries raised by members of the parliament Tuesday, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said Ethiopia is witnessing significant economic growth irrespective of all the challenges the country has been facing so far. The Premier said the homegrown economic reform is focused on three major areas: reduction of debt burden, completion of mega projects, and increasing revenue. He outlined that per capita income has reached $1,000 for the first time, which is stated as a great leap.
ሰፋፊ ድል ካመጣባቸው አንዱ ኤሪያ ይሄ ስለሆነ
Ethiopia has been listed among the most successful countries in achieving solid economic growth amid the global pandemic. We have been able to ensure this achievement due to our best strategy in fighting the COVID, unlike other countries whose economies were totally under total lockdowns. This is a growth where our per capita income reached $1,000 and our GDP raised to 100 billion. Of course, one can ask that what does 100 billion GDP mean where citizens are unable to offer their daily bread? It is fair to raise such questions, but it is good to recall that per capita income and GDP growth may not balance in a short period. We can see India and China, for example. Their GDP has been growing for the last years, but this doesn't mean they lifted all their respective citizens out of poverty. There is still poverty.
The Premier mentions COVID-19 and recurrent conflict as the major challenges in the economic sector, recalling the economic sabotage and the insatiable character of some traders as additional factors for the inflation. With all the potential challenges, the Premier said Ethiopia scored a remarkable achievement in the export income, citing 21% increment compared to the previous times.
2010 ኢትዮጵያ
In 2010 Ethiopian calendar, the total income of Ethiopia was 176 billion birr, and a year later, the economy showed an average increment and rose to 196.5 billion birr. Similarly, the 2012 Ethiopian fiscal year witnessed over 30 billion birr rise, bringing the total income to 228.9 billion birr. But this year, our income reached 191 billion birr in just over 8 months only. But this is not enough. There is still a high inflation rate because of the economic sabotage and insatiable nature of some traders. Thus, we are working to normalize this and maximize our production capacity.
The Premier has also underlined that modernization of agriculture is one of the priority areas. He also said significant improvements have been made in the mining sector and ICT. The Premier has also reiterated that Ethiopia has immense potentials, reaffirming government's commitment to exerting further efforts to beef up the industry.
Spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, Ambassador Dina Mufti, said Ethiopia will never accept questions for new negotiation on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam before ending the current one. In the ministry's bi-weekly press briefing to the media, the ambassador focused on the Ethio-Sudan border issues and the GER negotiation and other diplomatic activities. Ethiopia believes in the African Union-led dialogue over the Grand Renaissance Dam and hopes the negotiation will commence soon under DRC's leadership. Concerns over the future course of the negotiations, such as the quartet, have never been officially submitted to Ethiopia. Ethiopian government believes that there is no reason to start a new process before having a conclusion on the current tripartite negotiation led by the African Union, says the spokesperson.
Since we are committed to the current process, we hope that trilateral discussions will continue, will resume, and these three countries will agree on the next process with regard to the filling and operations of Grand Renaissance Dam. Otherwise, since the process of being led by the African Union is underway, and as long as this process has not failed, as long as this process is in issuance, we don't see any reason why we go for another process, as long as this process is active.
The government of Ethiopia has been consistent regarding the need to solve the Ethiopia-Sudan border disputes through negotiation. He added,
the impediments for holding dialogue with the Sudanese on the border is the new strange positions of the military wing of the Sudanese government, of the Sudan, the military wing. Ethio-Sudanese Dimber issue had been there border issue had been there for 100 years. And we had a mechanism that we have employed to deal with it, and we have been dealing with it on successive basis. Now the problem is the Sudanese blatant invasion of the Ethiopian territory, looting of the Ethiopian properties, and the killing of the people, and the claiming that territory to be theirs, which is shameful. These are the hindrances. Now we're asking them. We're asking the Sudanese military wing, this is not in the interest of the Sudanese itself. This is against the Sudanese interest. I know there are so many Sudanese elites and Sudanese people and Sudanese intelligentsia that do not like it. And some of them we have seen it. We have seen it.
Spokesperson of the Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dina Mufti, urged the international community to continue to pressure Sudan to act respecting international law and according to the provision of the 1972 notes it has exchanged with Ethiopia. And finally, the head of the African Union Observer Mission, Delita Mohammed, has congratulated the Congolese people following a calm and peaceful presidential election, a vote that, according to the African Union mission, has consolidated the democratic achievement of the Republic of Congo. Delita Mohammed said during a press conference that the mission remains attentive to the rest of the process, in particular the centralization, compilation, proclamation of results and litigation. It has urged candidates to respect the verdict of the ballot box and to use the legal channel of appeal in case of dispute. The elite also offers his condolences to the relatives of opposition leaders Guy Brice Parfait Koleles, who died on Monday after testing positive for COVID-19. He was the main rival of the incumbent Denis Sassou Nguesso. That's according to the African Union. And finally, the reminders of the headlines. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says Ethiopia has no intention to harm Egypt or Sudan in the effort to light up Ethiopia. And the African Union hails Congolese presidential election. That's all for this edition. Thanks for watching. Goodbye and stay safe.